Hey everybody, my name is Jay Martin. This is another, or kind of the second really epic 4v4 in Arcole that I'm going to post. This was a fantastic game. This game was better than the previous one. This game took a solid 3 hours to play. All four players were really at a high level, and this is a really interesting game. Actually, the comment that pretty much everybody who played the game said the same thing, and one thing a couple of guys said is that when you play Napoleon, you put up with a lot of crap. You put up with people dropping randomly, disconnects, you put up with campers, and you put up with all that nonsense, and then once in a blue moon, you just get a really fantastic game that really justifies all that time that you put into it. And this is that game. This is a 4v4 on the Arcole map, and I am going to edit this game down for time a little bit. This game was 3 fucking hours long, but I'm assuming that maybe you watched my previous video on this game where I kind of talked about the layout of the map, so I'm not going to have to go over that again. The players in this team, on my side, I'm on this side of the river, and the leftmost position is SK Marsh. That's me. I'm the GB player there. This is Triphammer, and then Riskard is on the far right. So if I zoom out for you, you have, let me zoom out for you. You have SK, me, Trip, Riss. Playing for the other team is the Prussian Prince. You have Tavington, that's Rusty, and that is C. James. And these guys are all in Huntsman. They're all really good players, and because of that, everybody, both teams had really good communication. We didn't get to take advantage of the other team being a little uncoordinated or anything like that. So this is kind of the opening deployment of the game. SK and the Prussian Prince are staring at each other right there. Similar thing going on there. I'm moving more troops than I usually move over to attack. I'm going to start calling this the triangle area because there's 3 little bottlenecks right there. And then over here, Trip and Riss are getting their game on. And the kind of opening maneuver, this is Triphammer, who's brought 125s. We're all getting a little better at this map, and so we're all tweaking our army builds a little bit that we bring to this map. And Trip is bringing 125s to post on this region right here. The only thing I note to you initially is that Rusty is moving really aggressively, and he and James are going to hold down this crossing right here. This is an improvement over the way that the previous team played. They are not going to let their one player get isolated. So both these players are moving in to cover this crossing pretty aggressively. And you notice that Riss is setting up in formation to prepare an assault across there. And there we go. Rusty has a very good play right here. What he does is he occupies with his lights this area, and he's attempting to neutralize this area because we were going to use this area to neutralize that area. Interesting little commentary on kind of the chessboard aspect of this part of the map. And so Rusty moves his lights really aggressively to try to indirectly ease the pressure on the crossing area that Riss is getting ready to assault. Up and down the map, I am assembling an assault force. All 5 of my lights and about 6 line units are assembling an assault force to try to cross here. And not much is happening. I may neglect this portion of the battle for some time. With the only thing you should really know is keep in the back of your mind, even though I won't be showing it to you, is that SK and Prussian Prince kind of trade skirmish fire. One of them will move up and the other will move up, and they kind of like they're having a little dance, really. But that is going to happen on this side of the battle that I'm not going to pay a lot of attention to. So in the back of your mind, just kind of keep aware that are things going on all over the field, but I'm just really not going to show them to you. A few minutes into the game, and this is my attempt at an assault on the triangle area of the map. It's defended by 3 of Tavington's rifles, and I have all of my lights bunched up. The important thing from a strategic standpoint is the lack of units in this section of the field, which means that as things stand now, that if I can clear this area, we'll be able to turn right or turn left, and there isn't anybody really over there to stop us. There is a short-term problem of that. I have a lot of enemies that I have to kill, and what you're noticing is this is, I think, my 2nd or 3rd attempt, and I'm going to try this maneuver several times before I get it right. But that is a prelude to show you the first attempt at an assault that I make in that area of the map. And it really, the rifles that Tavington has there are causing me a lot of problems. This is a look at the right side crossing. Rusty at this point has moved all of his light infantry in this area. And there is an incredible amount of firepower devoted to this section between the lights of C. James and Rusty, and they're all sitting in there. Trips 125 plan is working out pretty well. He gets a handful of good volleys against those rifles. And this is Riss. His entire army is loaded up in column and ready to make that trek, and they're really just waiting for the best time to do it. Really waiting for the best time to do it. Again, we're kind of a stalemate here right now. I have to find a way to break through. The solution that we wind up using later on to break through this triangle area is kind of interesting. I'll try to clue you in on that later. And the same thing is happening in this area of the map. Here we go. Here comes a proper light infantry skirmish between myself and Tavington. And hopefully my militia are taking all of the hits. Am I doing it yet? So to back this up, I'm moving another militia unit and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So that... Shit, what is that? That's 12 units. That's the majority of my army is going to be coming across this triangle area. And it's such a hard place to attack because once you get about this neighborhood, there's just that much more front for them to deploy units on. It's really awkward place to attack. And we wind up going for desperate measures here. Yep, there goes all my line are moving in there. I'm not sure if this is the advance where I actually push all in on it or not. It might be. But this assault here is a bit interesting. Let me run you back over this direction real quick. Riss is still setting up for that assault. Yeah, and we're just getting pretty good shots here. What I'm able to do is stay out of the range of Tavington's line, so I'm technically just shooting at his rifle, but a bunch of bullets are passing through and hitting his Highland behind them. Taking full volleys from all of these line units would be really, really bad for me, so I need to avoid doing that. And yeah, I think he convinces me to withdraw at that point. Riskard's assault on the right begins now with this large concentration of infantry. The problem is that he's facing 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 units of lights right there, and that is just a ton of firepower, and it's really impossible as Riss is trying to get across. He just doesn't have enough room to spread units out that all shoot. These people have about double the frontage area that they can shoot from. Not only that, but the lights can stand behind each other and shoot pretty successfully. So Riskard is just going to take a horrific quantity of casualties trying to come across this bottleneck. It is it's got to be the hardest thing in the game to do, is attack across a bottleneck like this. You just know you're going to get chewed up. You're gonna want a chevron on your militia like that, and he runs all of them in. And what these guys are trying to do is they're trying to get across the bottleneck and just buy enough space to redeploy. If Riss can get these lights over and get them spread out so that just more men are shooting, that's going to be, that's the goal you're looking for. But against people who know what they're doing, a frontal attack like this is just plain suicide. There's no better way to put it. I mean, it's the cost of attacking, obviously, and you know that going in, but it's a whole other matter when the defender is well organized, and the defender knows that. An even skill test between, or a test of this between two players of equal skill, or even moderately even skill, is not going to be pretty for the attacker. And here comes some cav from C. James, really well timed, and what he's trying to do there, like he knows that his cav is going to get butchered, which is what happens. But what James is trying to do right there is he's just buying time. What he really just did with that cav is buy another volley for all 8 of these lights, which is a good play. I would 8 units of lights, a volley from them is worth a cav unit. It's the right thing to do. So Riss is going to continue with his assault here up on the right over and over again, just crushing his head against them. Over on the left side, here is an interesting part of my assault. My lights have run up, and I'm getting actually pretty good fire on these rifles. Now I have a problem that Tav has, and then C. James has got his cav coming in. And my solution is I have 4 units of line here. I'm going to send 2 of them into melee, those are the red dots, and the other 2 to shoot. And again, this is kind of a smaller version of what Riss is doing, but I'm pretty much throwing away 2 line units just to neutralize these 2 units. That's the cost of attacking, right? And this attack progresses quite slowly, but this attack is the best shot we got. We got to get a bridgehead somewhere, and honestly, this seems like the best part of the map to do it. So 2 units go in for melee. My lights on the left are shooting them up, and yeah, there you go. I really got to say, I recommend putting some chevrons. If you know you're going to be in a map like this and you're going to need a militia to meat shield for you, pop a couple chevrons on it. A militia with 2 chevrons on it holds out about, it seems, twice as long as a militia with no chevrons on it. So that is money well spent. So if you're going to use a meat shield, you want to consider putting the chevrons on it. And you can see the engagement here is I just run guys up real close, and the other guy's going to melee. I'm going to lose those fights, obviously, because I took a hit to the face coming in. But it's just something I got to do. These guys are running up their line really aggressively. And again, it's the same thing that's going on the Riskguard side. It's just a naked shootout. It's not as dirty a one going on over there, but that is what I'm trying to do. Riss and Trip are pushing more infantry across. This is really bad, just because, even if they can fight through this area, once they come over here, they're going to just get pelted by just more fucking light infantry, man. They're so accurate, they're hard to kill, and these guys are pushing a ton of force over there. It's just hard, man. It's just hard. They fought real hard for this, and pretty soon here, at some point you just take too many losses, and you're like, there's no way we can continue this, and they're going to have to pull back from here. Now, they are putting out some damage, don't get me wrong, but you just take so many more hits going across. You're just taking the first volley every time. If you take the first volley every time, you're going to have problems. CJ did a really nice thing, that cav that he sent into me. It didn't change the course of action over here, but it certainly didn't help. It hurt me pretty good. What I am able to do is I have traded successfully one of my line for one of his line, and I'm going to try to trade that. That's one of Tavington's line right there. This is going to wind up, this assault right here for me is actually pretty successful. All things considered, it does bias the real estate. And again, from a strategic perspective, there aren't any units right here to come crashing into my flank. So that move where I sent the 4 line on this side is going to bias the triangle, because it'll let me put fire. Now I got him in the same situation, right? I'm going to be able to set units up here to shoot on his flank, and it's going to force Tavington to withdraw out of the triangle. So what we're going to wind up doing is we're going to wind up capturing this triangle area, and then that's going to give us some options of where we want to push. And I think at this point, see these units moving right here? This is me moving the rest of my army. It's moving the rest of my army into that triangle area. So this assault right here is the most successful thing we've got going, and it's going to dictate our strategy for the next hour, really. And SK and the Prince are still facing off. These guys right now are making their withdraw back across the river. Okay, maybe they haven't started yet, but these guys are going to have to withdraw back across the river. if we skip forward a bit, we reach a situation where that triangle assault, you see we've cleared it out. I've got lights defending it, and I am able to run up this far. Now these guys have pulled a handful of their units back over. You can see that earlier in the game this part of the map was empty. In order to meet the threat that was caused by us opening this bottleneck here, they've had to redeploy a bunch of units this direction. And really we have kind of an opportunity here. I misspoke. These are our units, excuse me. These are defender units and those are defender units. We are doing two things. We're trying to push through the town from that left side there, and then Triphammer and I start an assault across this bridge. They have units coming in to reinforce here. And initially, I was really optimistic about our chances right here. But something bad happens at the same time. These guys are just completing their withdrawal from across there, which obviously, intuitively, is going to free them units to shift back over this direction. Our timing on this was not great. A couple little technical things. The assault that Trip and I put across this bridge is completely disastrous. Assaulting across a bridge like this is a bad idea. There is a foot guard there defending, but Trip and I pretty much are each going to lose a unit. Each going to lose the unit that we put across that bridge right there. My unit stupidly takes a volley at the house instead of shooting at the foot guard. I correct that in a second. But they have a Black Watch unit guarding that house. I come back from it really quick. This turns out to be a pretty strong defensive position. You can't just assault across this bridge into a foot guard firing on it, plus a Black Watch on the house next door. Our inability to do that will result in us having to pull back across this area of the map. And if you look in the distance, you can see that CJ and Rusty are moving their units back over this direction. Our team makes a decision here in a minute. Let me make sure I have my context right before I talk about that. Yeah, okay, everything's still normal. Marsh and Prussian Prince are still just facing off, and that's me versus Tabington in the triangle, not really doing anything. I don't really have enough troops right now to burst through this bridgehead yet, and we are also at the same time trying to exploit this area of the map. However, we're going to give up on this really quick once we see these units coming. The next step of the battle for us, or the next kind of decision that we make, is that after the failed attack here, Riskard just took a real beating trying to go across there because he led the assault and he took the majority of the casualties. And the decision that our team comes to is that we are going to leave Triphammer to cover this area of the map, and Riskard is going to move his entire army over here and up through the triangle area, because that seems to be our best option on getting across the river right now. So up to this point we've had a failed assault through the town. You can see that's us pulling back from it now. The turn right turned out to be a failure, and we're trying to retreat away from that now. And in a moment, Riskard's army is going to start moving to the left side of the map. As the game continues to develop, the fight for the triangle becomes a bit more fierce. On the right side of it, these are SK's units that he's pushed in. So we have units from 3 of our players in this flank now, and they're getting counterattacked quite hard from Rusty on the right. And they have moved a fair, if I zoom over to show you this section of the map, they've moved a fair bit of their force over there. They're able to do that because, again, we shifted Riskard away from here, so just Trip is guarding this particular crossing. You see more and more of Rusty's men are being invested in this direction. On this side, the assault is planned. We plan to turn left, and these are Riskard's lights on the left side and my rights on the right side with my militia in the middle. And we plan to use this ginormous, this kind of super hammer to push through. The problem is that they have 3 rifles hidden over here, and both Riskard's and I's lights are incredibly depleted. Like I'm at 26, and Riskard's kind of in the same boat. I think he has one with about 60, which we're really tickled. right about here. We do have a fair amount of line infantry. We have about 6 and then another 4, so about 13. We have 13 or so line units that we would like to break out into this portion of the map. If we can break out into this portion of the map, that'll force these units to withdraw, which will allow us to get SK's units into the field. So really, this section of the game is all about, if we can force a big enough opening, then that'll let us put a critical mass of force into one section of the field. This assault with the lights goes pretty well for us until Prussian Prince really frustrated us at every opportunity. Every time that we thought we'd make a breakthrough over here, he managed to show up with a unit that could hurt us really bad. See that unit of lights that's coming over that gets pulled from this far right bottleneck is going to show up on our flank and cause us all kinds of problems. But just in isolation, this part of the game seems kind of winnable for us. We just kind of got to shoot it out with these guys. Tabington's rifles have taken a fair bit of casualties. 2 of these were fresh when this engagement started, but we're able to put some fire on them and deplete them fairly quickly. This unit of lights that is moving up right here is going to cause us a lot of problems. This would have gone much, much easier if they had never shown up. Never shown up. If you take a peek at the mini-map, you notice this is the defending team in red. They've just got a ton of units holding this area, and while I understand them not, well, they do start making assaults. Actually, C. James and Rusty here show a fair bit of coordination, because CJ has a Prussian light that's pretty full that he can push across. We have no light infantry here. Well, I guess we have one of mine that's kind of a token. But they're able to push us back across this arm of the triangle pretty much just with this light over and over, and there's not a whole lot that we can say about it. Not a whole lot. The forces on this side, this is a good example of SK and Prussian Prince having one of their little shootouts that they had over the crossing. Nobody here is really ever able to gain a big enough advantage to actually cross the river, but they do shoot at each other quite a bit and kind of whittle each other down. But at this point in the game, this is where the meat of it is happening. It's our attempt at an assault across here. While the assault in the triangle is going on, Tripp starts to make his own movement across the riverbank again. It's awkward because both sides have moved so much of their resources to the left end of the map that, and it's hard to tell because there's a bunch of hidden units here that you can't see. But Tripp Hammer does load up to make another assault here, and if not, make the complete assault. He gets good fire across the river there. 125s are really good on this map. To a certain degree. But this assault here forms 2 functions. Either A, Tripp is going to feel him out and see if he actually has the power to actually get across there. But even if he doesn't, what he's doing is he's just reminding these guys that they're there, and he needs to draw as many units back onto him and away from us in the triangle as possible. This is a really good example of indirect threats, or creating indirect fire advantage, because if Tripp can draw more units over than he himself represents, then that will make our job easier on another part of the map. And a really important concept when you're playing a team game and on a big map like this is that even though you can't participate directly, you can't actually shoot at the enemy, indirect participation just by influencing what they're able to do just by presenting threats is a really, really powerful tool, and you need to be able to do that. The same with Marsh on the other side of the map. Let me give you a zoom back over there. I mean, even though Marsh, he does his small little maneuvers across the forward here, he's holding a lot of Prussian Prince's units down, and that's really, really important. While that action is going on, we are continuing our maneuver. We have beaten Tavington's rifles off, and pretty much all that's holding us back right now is this unit of lights from the Prussian Prince, which is causing us a lot of problems. They are being a little more aggressive in trying to move up the right end of the triangle, and that is CJ and my lights shooting at each other. I don't think that we handled this end of it terribly well. It was a bit awkward because those are my lights and SK's line behind me. So and that was also difficult because both SK and I were involved in multiple areas of the map. So our coordination was maybe a little bit slower than it should have been here, but that's just to be expected. I thought we did pretty good considering the circumstances. Yeah, and so we're moving in pretty good unison right there. So. SK and I every now and then will put together some good teamwork. You give us enough time, we'll do some smart. Again, a final look before I zoom out. We're gathering another assault to, now that we've kind of won the left end of the triangle, our next assault needs to be able to break out and form a bigger bridgehead to cause these guys problems and then indirectly threaten these units here is kind of our plan. And there's Trip waiting to exploit that crossing. The assault to break out from the triangle is a really, really nasty one, and you can see SK moving his force across this ford here. SK pays the price. SK pretty much just takes frontal volleys from a lot of Tavington and Prussian Prince's units. We do have a small bit of a range advantage, but not one really worth writing home about. This is nothing but a bar fight where you walk up and shoot at them, and SK here, I'll try to condense this down a bit for you. SK here is just running up and has to shoot at him as much as possible. Everybody takes a whole bunch of casualties here, both the attackers and the defenders. This is not an elegant way to play the game, but at some points in the map, you just got to get in there and attack them. The assault here was just really rough. Every assault in this game is rough. We're committing more and more resources to this area. This obviously becomes the main focus or the main axis of our team's attack right now. More of their resources are coming this direction. It's a rough spot to be in. What we're trying to do here, I don't remember whose units these are, but we're just trying to work around the flank one way or the other. This team does have a bit of problem that they don't have anybody they can pull back in reserve. If we can, strategically, if we can, get around the flank here, we should be able to force this team to withdraw away from the river. Is really the goal that we're working for, and all that really does is earn us the right to chase them across the corner of the map, which I don't know if you call that a win or not, but it is kind of what we're looking for. It's just a grind. We are having some problems in this area of the map. This team has a ton of resources, and they've decided that they want to take back some ground. SK and I start to pull back. My second line moves in, but this team is moving pretty aggressively over the right side of the triangle there. While this is going on, Trip had tried to make the assault. They still got too many resources there for that to be profitable, so all he's doing is just trying to keep them interested, and it's actually working. They're putting more units back over on this side of the field is what's happening right now. It's like you can't be strong everywhere. The assault... The continued assaults like this are just really rough. You just take so many losses over and over. We do have a good thing. SK is getting around on him. SK is getting around on him a little bit. I'm getting around on him a little bit. And SK is feeling bold enough. He's actually going to run units across the bridge. I think it's a good idea. He's not going to get shot. While that's going on, SK makes the companion movement on the left. Again, takes a just a mouthful of lead from Prussian Prince's lights that are stationed on the far bank right there. Just takes a couple volleys without being able to return fire. But that's kind of what... It's what you're getting into right there. So what I want to leave you with now is kind of this look at the breakout from the triangle and the breakout across this bridgehead here, which is going to force this team to withdraw this direction.